mabuhay. In the very crowded and highly competitive crossover segment, there's no room for complacency.
Automakers regularly launch new models because keeping up is a must.
That's why today we're going to be looking at the newest challenger, a nameplate that was in dire need of an update.
The new GAC GS4. So GAC made a lot of changes to the new GS4, and it makes it look a lot more aggressive and sportier compared to the previous generation model. Now, it's very evident here at the front, which has the new LED headlamps with LED DRLs. While the grille is mostly the same with these vertical slats, they are now wider and giving it a lot more presence on the road. The bumper is also new, and it now has these new side air vents which further add aggression to the SUV. So here at the side, GAC made a lot of changes to match the new front end. There's a lot less character lines, giving the crossover a smoother and cleaner look. There's also new turn signal indicators, a roof rail which is functional, and 17-inch wheels. I personally like the chrome trim they added on the door handles as well. Now, the only carryover from the previous generation GS4 is this, the wraparound rear quarter window. So it might be hard to tell, but this new GS4 is actually a lot bigger compared to before, both in length, width, and height. This new one measures 4,545 millimeters long, 1,856 millimeters wide, and 1,668 millimeters tall. It has a wheelbase of 2,680 millimeters, which is a lot longer compared to its predecessor. Now, GAC didn't tell us the ground clearance, but they did say it's less than what it had before. So, better mind the speed bumps when you're going over them. So here we are at the rear, and as you can see, GAC changed the taillights to make it smaller and match that of the front end. It's now connected by a chrome trim as well. Down here, there's a new bumper and LED rear fog lights. To add to that sporty vibe they were going for, there's a new roof spoiler. Now, open the trunk, and you have a big boot. According to GAC, there's 470 liters of space available, and if you fold the second row down, you get 1,560 liters of space for everything you want to carry. Overall, I like what GAC did with the new GS4. It looks a lot sportier and a lot more aggressive compared to the outgoing model. But I do wonder why they didn't add fog lights, front fog lights to be exact. There are rear fog lights on this vehicle, but there are none in the front. I also wish they opened up the side intakes to make it functional and add to that aggressive design they were going for. Under the hood of the new GS4 is a 1.5-liter turbocharged inline 4, which produces 166 horsepower and 270 Newton meters of torque. It's paired to a 6-speed automatic, which powers the front wheels. Now you might be wondering, is this the same engine as before? Not really. That one only made 151 horsepower in comparison. Now let's go check out the inside, where Pablo's already chilling with the aircon on.
This being an all-new model, not all the changes were made just to the exterior. They made a lot of changes in here as well. And the first thing you notice is what GAC calls the Aisin ultra-large panoramic sunroof. And they weren't kidding about the size of it. Let's talk about the things that matter. And first, I'd like to point out that there's only one variant of the GS4. So GAC tried to put in as much things while also keeping it affordable. But you do get cruise control, you do get a push start button, and a lot of other features. But the main thing that they really changed is you have a new 8-inch infotainment screen that has Apple CarPlay. No Android Auto, not really sure why, but Apple CarPlay, not bad. In front of me, while you don't get a fully digital instrument cluster, you have a small multi-informational display screen in the middle. While it may not be, fully digital, it still does the job well. GAC claims that the interior materials that they used are eco-friendly and low odor. meaning the leatherette that they used and the plastics they used are supposed to help keep odor away or limit it. But since this is the first time I've heard any automaker claim that, why don't we test it? Well, I can't really tell, but at least they don't smell bad. Lastly, the air conditioning system here has a filter that GAC claims can filter 99.7% of small dust and pollen particles, which of course is a good thing to help keep the air you breathe inside clean.
So Pubs, how's the interior?
I think the interior is a big upgrade compared to the previous generation. But now to the important part of driving. And since I'm in a very fair mood today, I think it's only right that me and Joe settle who gets to drive in the most gentlemanly way possible. Rock, paper.
Okay, may driver ako. Since Pablo's been generous enough to drive for me, I get to enjoy the second row a bit more. And I must say, it's very, very comfortable, and I might even say luxurious. As you can see, the legroom is very, very big. I can even sit with my legs crossed, which you would normally find on higher end crossovers and sedans. There's also a second row aircon, which helps keep me cool. And there's also USB charging ports down here, so I can connect to my phone when I need to. There's also an armrest with a built-in cup holder in case I have any drinks. But Pubs, how is it driving?
Okay, so there's a very good reason why I cheated Joe's out of driving the GS4, and it's because I had the privilege of driving the first generation before. So having the input of driving the old one and then now driving this new one, I can confidently say that this car has been upgraded really, really well. I think that before, the problem with the first generation GS4 is that by the time it was launched here locally, it was already pretty old. It wasn't necessarily a new car.
It was a few years old at the time.
Yeah, it was a few years old at the time. So while it wasn't bad, it could have been better.
Yes, definitely a lot better, especially in terms of the quality and fit and finish.
Yeah, so given that it took them quite a long time to bring this one here, means that it's such a big contrast from the first one to this new one. So I think the transmission for this one is a 6-speed automatic.
680, yes.
Yeah, it's a 6-speed automatic. And I just noticed whenever we come to a full stop, it jerks or shudders. And at first, when I first got into this, I thought it had the auto start stop system,
auto engine off.
Yeah, that manufacturers put to save fuel sometimes. I couldn't find it, so obviously this car doesn't have it. So I take it that the transmission rather there's something weird about it when you come to a full stop.
Weird,
yeah, it's not a dual clutch, so it shouldn't shudder or jerk.
Only thing we've noticed so far.
Yeah, it's just one thing. It's not a bad thing. It's not like it throws you forwards or backwards. You just notice it when you try to get to a full stop. But yeah, but overall, it's not so bad. The steering, there are actually 3 steering modes. You have comfort, standard, and sport. That has nothing to do with the transmission and the engine. It's just pure steering. So if you want the lightest steering in the world, then you go for comfort. And it's when I say light, it's very light. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's actually unnerving how light it is. So I choose to go for standard. It's a good mix between weight and lightness. But if you're like Joe's, who thinks he's on a racetrack all the time, he rather drives in
It's just a personal preference. So at least GAC gave you that option. If you want something easier to drive and you don't want to move the steering wheel around, you can just put it on comfort. But if you want something a bit more weighted, you put it in normal or sport.
Yeah, but again, we have to reiterate that it's only the steering, nothing else.
Nothing with the engine.
Yeah, nothing with the engine, transmission, or the ride. It's just the steering. So there. So I guess to really sum it all up, the experience with riding and driving compared to the previous one is so much better. And I think that's all that really matters, is that GAC really upgraded the quality, the feel, and everything. And we're both in agreement that we actually can't find anything wrong with it, right?
Apart from the mini issue with the
Yeah,
transmission, inside there's nothing. I'm sitting comfortably here going over bumps on EDSA, and I still feel like I could sip a cup of coffee in the morning without any issue.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's basically it. I mean, honestly, we were trying to find where could it have fallen short, and honestly, there's nothing.
Nothing.
Just the transmission. That's the only thing I can think of.
If we're gonna nitpick, we wanted the digital cluster because it looks nice, but that's just nitpicking.
Yeah, they have that in China, right?
Yeah,
the
in
one
China.
in China comes with a fully
digital cluster and
instrument
the larger infotainment screen. But at
That's just
that
nitpicking,
point,
yeah.
we're nitpicking already.
Yeah, exactly. You'll be shocked to see how much this car actually costs later. But again, to sum it all up, driving, riding,
No
perfectly
issues.
fine. No issues. You'd be happy with this every day.
Whether you're driving or sitting in the second row.
Exactly.
Thanks for driving, Pabs.
No problem, Joes. So to sum it all up, in a world dominated by the Geely Coolray, the MG ZS, and the Ford Territory, does this GS4 have what it takes to stack up against the competition?
Yes, it does. Especially with the new GS4, GAC leveled it up in terms of quality, comfort, performance, and handling.
We haven't even gotten to the best part yet, and that this lone variant, the 1.5T GDI, retails for 1,098,000 Philippine pesos only. And that is a very competitive, if not one of the more affordable options in the segment.
We certainly enjoyed our time with the GS4, but again, these are our own opinions of the car. If you want to find out for yourself, we suggest you head to the GAC dealership nearest you and book a test drive.
So if you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. This has been Pablo Salapantan.
This has been Jose Altaveros.
Paalam.
Thank you for watching.
Nice.